How does being a parent affect the way that you age? Do your children keep you youthful, or are they somehow accidentally making you get older and older and older because of the stress and all the pressure and all the drama and all the hormonal changes and everything else that happen as a result of being a parent? After the break, we talk about how being a parent may or may not be aging us for better or for worse. That's next. Stay with us. This is the Happy Families podcast. G'day, thanks so much for joining us. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. We're the parents of 6 kids. And this is the podcast where you get real parenting solutions every single day. Every Thursday, we talk about the latest research, the latest science, what we're discovering about parenting that can have an impact on our lives. I have a question for you, Kylie. Do you think that being a parent has either aged you or keeps you youthful?
I know you think that this is a whole podcast, but I can answer this in one sentence and we can be done.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Right. You just feel like you're a little older. Break that down. Why do you feel like being a parent is not good for your aging process? And then I'll see how much of what you believe, because I haven't talked to you about this at all, what you believe, how that ties in with what the research shows.
Your stress levels go through the roof.
Right.
When you're a young parent, you are losing sleep just because of the physicality of the immediate physical needs and
we've lost plenty of sleep with teenagers as well.
But once you get to teenagehood, you're losing sleep over significantly more stressful circumstances and events that take place in your life.
Going grey, losing hair.
You're getting up at 3 o'clock to take your daughter to work. Your life is no longer yours. Yeah. And so you're not just worried about the things in your own physical space, but all of theirs as well. And so much of it is out of your control.
Well, let's talk about the science.
Done. That's it. You don't need science. It's just, that's it.
We'll see how your hypotheses measure up to what the research shows.
So does becoming a parent make you age, make you change?
So I would suggest that there's a more complex relationship than the one that you've outlined. But the short answer is, yeah, it kind of does.
I told you.
You were
the
right.
The sample of one doesn't lie.
No. So we've even got names to describe the phenomenon. So you might have heard of matrescence. This is the process where, like, adolescence is where you go from being a child into being an adult. Matrescence is the process where you go from being a woman into a mother. And there's also a term for men. It's called putrescence, although we don't hear nearly as much about putrescence as we do matrescence. There are physical changes, there are cognitive changes, there are emotional changes, there are social changes that parenthood brings. Some are quite well understood, some less so. Let's start with hormones. So when you have a baby, there's a whole lot of oxytocin booms through your body, but also through mine as a dad. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this. When men become fathers, there's a massive decrease in testosterone. So you have a baby and all of a sudden the testosterone goes through the floor. And part of that is probably to give your wife or partner some time to recover physically from everything that's been going on. So those drives might drop off just a little bit. But also, as the oxytocin goes up and the testosterone goes down, it turns men into much more nurturing rather than much more physical and dominant kind of, like, it makes the world safer for mum and baby because dad has become a whole lot more loving. This is a bit hard to hear, but for both males and females, some research highlights that our brains shrink slightly when we have a baby. So our brain, it restructures itself somewhat and it shrinks just a little bit.
I don't think it's just a little bit, but let's move on.
Right. And as you've highlighted, research shows that many of the changes that we go through once we become parents and then continue on our parenting journey leave some parents a lot more at risk of high stress and postnatal mental health. We hear about postnatal depression, and there's also a reality of that for men as well as for women. So as you've said, in those early years, all of the realities of being a young parent are linked with biological aging patterns. You highlight not getting enough sleep. You can throw in financial stress and just the general upheaval. And there's this...
Well, the change to lifestyle in general. Your social life goes down the tube.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard of telomeres. They're on the end of your DNA. They're kind of like, the plastic tip that you've got on the end of your shoelace?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they do. They're like these protective caps on the edges of your DNA. So what they do is they stop your chromosomes from deteriorating or fraying at the end or fusing with neighboring DNA cells when there's any division going on. I know that's potentially a little bit too sciencey, but basically with a telomere, we want to have really long, strong telomeres. But when you are not getting enough sleep, when you're carrying too much stress, when your life feels like it has gone through a whole lot of upheaval, what that can do is it shortens your telomeres. And with shorter telomeres, that means that you're at greater risk of cardiovascular disease, greater risk of dementia, greater risk of early death. Thank you, kids.
Wow.
Right. So like I said, it's complicated, but that's the bad news. The bad news is that it really, really does. And you know what stress does to your hormones?
Uh-huh.
So cortisol, inflammation, the more stressed you are, the more inflamed you are, the more cortisol and adrenaline's pumping around your body. This is heart attack territory. This is exactly the sort of high blood pressure. This is the stuff that you don't want. And it's linked to all sorts of long-term chronic health conditions if you have ongoing elevated
So I'm trying to work
stress.
out. I don't know why we didn't know this 30 years ago. That could have changed my life in so many ways.
How many kids would we have had if you knew all this?
Is there any positive news to this?
There is. After the break, I'll tell you. We're back. This is the Happy Families podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. So we've gone through all the bad news. You can literally see your life disappear from underneath you as you have children. And the more children, the harder it becomes.
I'm so sorry, everybody. This is like Debbie Downer Thursday. Seriously.
I want to share some data from Sweden, though. So basically, there is some research that shows that parents, in spite of everything I've just said, and it doesn't make sense, but in spite of everything that I've just said, parents actually do have a slighter, longer life expectancy than people who don't have children. Can you believe it? And that's why I said it's complicated.
Yeah, hold on with gritted teeth our whole lives and we don't know how to let go when the time comes.
Well, I don't know if it's that. My hypothesis is this. Once your children have finally moved to a point in their lives where they don't create nearly as much stress as they once did.
You rewrite history?
Partly. But also you get to become a grandparent and you have all these reasons to live. It actually changes. The meaning, the richness, it all deepens. There's some data from Sweden that highlights that you don't actually see this advantage until you're at least 60. So you and I are still not quite there. I mean, we've got a 12-year-old. We're still dealing with a 16-year-old and the emotions and the hormones and all that sort of stuff. But in 10 years, Kylie, I will be 60. That was frightening. I can't believe that I just said that out loud. That's hard to take. Oh, my goodness. And our youngest will be in her early 20s. So we will be fully through that phase of life. And gosh, who knows how many grandkids we'll have by then. How exciting. And after 60, fathers have a 2-year advantage over non-fathers. Mothers have a slightly shorter advantage over non-mothers. So the data from Sweden seems to indicate that life expectancy goes up. It goes up once you've got those kids through those heavy childhood years. And the researchers in this study speculated that the social and emotional support that parents get as they engage with their grown-up children and their grandchildren is actually the factor. It's that richness, it's that meaning that comes from having a wonderful, intact family, which highlights just how important it is that you work really hard in the early years to make sure your family stays intact as they get older.
It's funny. I know we've been joking a little bit about this, but as we've been talking before you shared the positive side of things, I was actually in my head thinking that our kids kind of grind us into the ground in those early years, and it's our grandchildren as we're experiencing that resurrect us and just add so much more. I don't want to say meaning, but they add a level of joy that we didn't necessarily experience as parents because we were so caught up in all the minute detail of raising children. Whereas as a grandparent, you kind of get to enjoy, and you still worry about them and you still agonize over decisions and choices, but not in the same way a parent does.
I hope that this podcast gives everyone who's years and years and years and years and years away from being a grandparent some hope that it does get better, because it really does. And this is not a grandparenting podcast. This is about being in the thick of it. There are a couple of other data points that I want to go to, Kylie, just around parenting.
But your relationship with your children changes as they have children.
Yeah, it does.
So not necessarily about grandparents at all. It's about
well, it's the emotional and social support that these researchers are pointing to. Like, we love being with our adult children much more than we loved being with them when they were young. And we loved being with them when they were young. Make no mistake, in spite of all the headaches and the challenges we do laugh about how hard it was and how much we sometimes wished we could have more of a break, but we loved being with them when they were young. We had so many treasured memories, and we still do with the young ones who are at home. But the relationship changes in delightful ways when they become adults. So last couple of pieces of data that I wanted to just throw out here in terms of the aging process and being a parent. All of this is correlational data, of course. Worth highlighting that financial elements really do play a part here. Parents in low-income households are generally going to experience more stress, and their long-term life expectancy can be as much as 10 years shorter than those in the higher income households. Like, your stress levels are tied to your finances to some level, and that does have an impact on your life expectancy. As a parent, that all ties in. Another factor, the number of children you have and when you have them. So this one's very relevant for you and I with 6 children. New research, it was just published in January 2026 from the University of Helsinki in Finland, found that giving birth between the ages of 24 and 38 is associated with more favorable aging and longevity patterns. Going too early or going too late, not so favorable. And the study also showed that women with 2 to 3 children tended to live the longest, while women with more than 4 children were more likely to experience accelerated biological aging and have shorter lifespans. In other words, they die younger. Yeah, that's right. I think just the biological costs of pregnancy, childbirth, what your body has been through is just extraordinary. It's not just the stress of having 4 or more kids running around the house. Anyway, there is some earlier research that found a small positive correlation in lifespan in men who had higher numbers of children, which makes it sound like I might outlive you.
Well, I guess if I had to choose, I'd choose to go first.
I'd like it if we could go together. Let's not talk about that right now. I think we've still got a few years to go. Anyway, the relationship between kids and aging, it is complicated. The more kids you have, the younger you have them or the older you have them, all the shifts, it all plays a part. But one thing we know is that regardless of how long it ends up being, every moment matters, and it is a joy. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides our admin and other support. If you'd like to look at any of the data that I've shared, I'll link to it in the show notes. And for more information about making your family happier, you'll find it at happyfamilies.com.au.